Hey, what's up? It's Stephen A. Williams, president and founder of the creditrepairshop.com. And in this video, we're going to talk about another data breach. And I was actually a victim of this data breach. I'll let you know which company it was. And we're going to talk some question and answers from people who are going through lawsuits, have ID theft issues, and they're wondering why it's not working when they submit their ID theft information to get it, number one, removed, and also to have that debt taken away. So, and then I'm going to answer some other questions that we have here. And I want to say that thank you for being here. I know that you could be watching something else. I take everything that I do here very serious. I feel when I wake up in the morning, and I wake up very excited about everything that I got to do for this business, for my other businesses, but especially for this business, because when I talk about things with this business, some people, it could be very detrimental to themselves or their family. And what I mean by that is, if you have debt collectors trying to take your money, and you're barely surviving, you start, it's like a domino effect. They garnish your wages. It makes it harder for you to pay your bills, makes it harder for you to support your family. It makes it harder for you and your significant other to get along with each other. Sometimes people feel like they're a failure. Sometimes people feel like, they're not worthy. Like, why do bad things always happen to me? Just all of these types of feelings come about. And I guess that this is just the right business for me because I went through that. I'm not going to go into full detail about exactly what happened with me and my wife in the 90s, but I could tell you I went through the repos, I went through the low credit scores in the 400s, the closing of credit cards, the lawsuits, all of that stuff. And I did not file bankruptcy, not to say that bankruptcy is not an option. But what I did is I worked, me and my wife. I won't take full credit on this. It was an agreement between me and my wife to work our way through it. And what I teach here is exactly the different strategies and new strategies from what I've helped with my customers. And so before we get started, I want to let you in on something, if just in case you are feeling have anxiety, you feel worried, is that I want you to use this strategy. And this is something that I use, and it's actually something that will help you solve problems. It was like a secondary benefit that I didn't even know about when I had put this into action. I actually saw it with something called the Silva method, where, because I'm big in hypnosis, I'm big in positive thinking, big in that everything starts from the inside, and our inside is our outside is a result of what's going on the inside. So if the inside of you is a mess, the outside of that materializes is going to be a mess. And that's why you can have people, while you're struggling and going through all types of stuff, they're prospering and having good times, vacation, money, all types of things are going right. And you're like, well, aren't we living in the same conditions? Isn't this a recession? Isn't things bad? Isn't it hard times? Why aren't they going through that same thing? And it's because what they know and they understand that it comes from the inside, and what you project, what you visualize, and what you feel on the inside is what's going to happen on the outside. Not to say that you can control every aspect of everything, but it's a big part of it. So what I need you to do is, when you right now, you need to write down this note. When you are feeling stressed, when you are feeling worried, when you don't think you had the answers for something, I want you to slowly count. And when you get to do this, you won't even have to count. You'll just automatically do it. You count like this. You go 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. And as you do that, you're slowing down your breathing. You're just, and I don't want to call it meditating. I want to just call it slowing things down. And then you say 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. You're just thinking that. If you can see the number 2 in your mind, you could go to 3. and you just say 3, 3, 3. You see the number 3. You just let it be like a whole line of 3s in your mind. Just visualize the number 3. Visualize, and then you go to 4, 4, 4. You do that until you calm down. You do that until you calm down. And what is, because when anxiety is nothing but the mind running. You can't see your mind running, but if you can imagine this, or you don't even really have to imagine it. If you've ever ran before and you got out of breath, that's exactly what's happening in your mind. So many things are going on. You're worried, you're frustrated. People are saying this and that, and this is happening. All this stuff is happening. Your mind is like running, and it's out of breath. And you need to calm it down. You need to slow it down. Let it catch its breath. What do they do when people are running? They, get on their knees, like, put hands on their knees, and they're just taking deep breaths. So this is what you got to do for your mind, but the mind works in a different way. The mind is like a computer. So in a way, it's like you're rebooting it, you're resetting it. Like when you reset your computer, it's running real slow because it's got all of this stuff that's playing on there. You have to do the same thing for your mind. But let me tell you the other benefit that started to happen when I started instituting that. And you will get to a point to where you just do it automatically. Is that answers come to you, solutions. Like there was a big issue that we were having with one of my businesses. I'm talking about major financial, not from money coming in, but with something that we have to change over in our system, and it making us have to deal with like hundreds of customers. And I kept calling the company to say, what about this solution? What about that solution? What about that solution? No, we can't do that. I asked for extensions to make the switch over, and they were like, no, we can't do that either. And then I just kept the mind slow. And one solution came up, and guess what? That solution didn't work. I came up with a solution, and that solution didn't work. And then the ultimate solution that we came about, which was my provider said, this really would be the ultimate solution. It's going to take a lot of work. And I was like, okay, I guess that's going to be the solution. And that was going to be like hard, difficult to do. Like that was the one thing that I just did not want to do, but we just going to have to do it. And then on Friday, I was still in that calm state, walking and taking care of work. And guess what came to me? The solution. And when that solution came to me, one of my employees said, I was wondering why you never thought about that. And I was like, why didn't you ever say it to me? The moral to this is that you have the solutions inside. You just have to allow your mind to slow down, to allow you to process and look at the different ideas. Not every idea will work, but the solutions come from the inside, not on the outside. So now let's get into the first thing that we're going to talk about. One touch point, OTP. They're writing to notify me of an incident that may affect the privacy of some of your information. OTP is a vendor who provides printing and mailing services to various health insurance carriers and medical providers. Third party, right? To perform these, OTP provides certain information related to explanation of benefits, EOB, you received. So, when you do medical insurance sends out a document, says this was the services that you had, this was the rate, this is how much the insurance paid, this is how much you saved, this is how much you have to pay on your deductible. And it says here, this letter details of the incident, our response, and steps you may take to better protect possible misuse of your information should you feel appropriate to do so. So this was from the company that puts together the documents and sends it out to me, and this also, my wife got a letter too, that they're using to send out the medical information from services that were rendered, explanation of benefits. So I just want to make you aware that it looks like it happened April 28th, 2022, and it's under investigation. They found out about it on June 3rd, 2022. So that's that. Next thing I want to talk about is Telegram. I am not on Telegram. That is not me. That is a picture where someone has taken my image and put that on there. I am on here, you know, removing those off of here. I've seen them off and on. I'm not on Telegram. I didn't even know what Telegram was, so I'm a little bit behind on some of these things, but I am not on Telegram. So you'll know that if the response is from me, because you'll see a black box around the, and it'll say the credit repair shop, and you'll see my name. All right, so now let's answer some questions. One of my longtime subscribers, he had stated it was from the video debt collector steals $4,000 from bank account overnight, and this had happened from individual who the account that this is all about. This is not her account. But what happened is she did not respond in the appropriate amount of time when she could have responded, saying that this is ID theft. They got a judgment. They got a seizure, which they can do if it's part of a business. They got a seizure of over $4,000 from her account. And the individual was wondering, why were they able to do it? Why is she even fighting and worried about it if it's not her? And the reason why is because when you're dealing with ID theft, the company doesn't know if it's you or not. And so they're going to run through their own processes, and you have to do your fighting on one end. And then something that you got to watch out for, which is missed by a lot of people, is that some of the times the company is going to send you documentation on the way that they want it submitted to them. Just because you submit the information, even if you submit it to the CFPB and to your attorney general, all of those places, your police report, you can do all of that and it will still get disregarded, because the company is an individual entity and they have their own rules, regulations on the way that they're going to deal with it. And if you do not, they have this right. Every company has this right, no matter who CFPB and all these other places are. That company has a right to have its own processes in place for dealing with ID theft. So even if you contact CFPB, Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, they're going to still, that company will send you a document and they'll say, you got to submit it on this form, or you got to submit it this way, or we're going to disregard it. They have that right to do that. You might be saying, well, how can they do that? Why can't they just go off of what, I've sent them? Because there's something that is, some people don't even know about this. And this is something that I had to go through with the credit repair shop, is that you have to submit your documents, your contracts on how you're going to run your business. And they just have to conform to what the governmental agencies want. But it doesn't have to be exactly the way that they want it. It just has to it has to conform to, you're going to do this, 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 and this. That's all they want. But they can't tell the company, hey, you got to charge this, or if this ID theft happens, you have to use our form. No, you got to use our form. This is our process. This is our company. We're going to have all of the different things that you want us to have in there, but we want it on our document, and they have a right to do that. And that's where a lot of people get screwed up with ID theft. I had a gentleman who had just blatant ID theft from a vendor who was selling services for Home Depot. Never had a Home Depot account, never got any type of loan from them. They were coming after him for over $5,000. The documents were submitted to the Bureau. The documents were submitted to that go-between company that, that showed on his credit reports. But after doing a whole bunch of digging, it finally got to the right people at Home Depot. And Home Depot said, you still got to submit this document. And that ended up being a major lawsuit where he's going to get a settlement because that third-party company was just taking people's names and getting loans from Home Depot. It's crazy. Another one here, person said that they had a Capital One credit card, but it was stolen. I no longer have access to the email for the account. I have received the card about the breach. What do I do now? You call the number that's on the card for the breach. You also need to make sure that that card is down, like it's gone, like it's closed, because they're going to say, until you notify them, they're going to think that everything was either done by you or approved by you because that card is in your name. So you need to jump on that. Don't wait. Another one that we had here. Let's see. There was one, let's see here. Okay, 299. I thought I had one about repos, but let me just review what you should do if you have a repo. If you have a repossession, number one, if the car is gone, you let it go. Even if you gave it to them or they came and took it, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how it's going to be on the credit. It'll still be a repo. Once they sell the vehicle, what you should do, especially, you should always do it, but especially right now, you want to get the auction receipt, because what has been happening without people even knowing about it is that these cars are selling for a lot more at auction. Dealers are having a hard time getting used cars. People are keeping their used cars a lot longer. They're keeping their cars a lot longer. Once you get the cars used anyway. People are keeping their cars a lot longer. They don't want to sell them. They're just keeping up with the maintenance. They don't want to have the payments. Car dealers are having a hard time. They want people, like a good cycle of people coming in, buying new cars, buying used cars. They make very good profit on used cars. And what we've seen is that at auction, that some cars, not all, are either being paid in full and overage over the amount, which that would go to you. A lot of people don't know that. Or it was being paid very close to what was owed. And then, but what the companies would do is they would still sell off the portfolios, and people, because they don't know their rights, they're like, well, okay, I know that I did get the car back, or they did come and take the car, so I must owe this amount. That's the amount that I remember owing. You need to do this. Number one, you get an auction statement. And this is just going off of if there was no issues with the repo itself. Like if there was no issues with the repo itself. So you get the auction statement, you get your original contract, and you want to make sure that the dealer was not paid for anything when that car got taken, because they could have got something that's called, they say either payment insurance, loan insurance. They got all these different names for it, but it basically what it is it will pay them a portion or pay off the vehicle if the vehicle is repossessed, if the loan is repossessed. Let me give you a little bit of background about why they started doing that. They started coming up with these programs for dealers, because a lot of dealers deal with subprime lending, or they deal with people. Number one, a lot of people's cars get repoed. A large percentage of people with cars, it's like 15, 20% at any given time. So this market, a lot of these dealers, they run through this subprime market of people who have trouble, and they always say, hey, bankruptcy, no problem, repo, no problem, we can get you approved. So they already know that they're dealing with a group of people who could potentially default on a loan. The banks will give loans on cars if they feel that the person could pay at least 6 months. It was one thing that I saw from an underwriter, a friend of mine, was like 3 months. So they're looking at if you can make those payments for 3 to 6 months. They have their own little formula on figuring that out. And number one part of the formula is that they believe that a person will fight for their transportation, which, if you think about it, most people will fight hard to keep their transportation. So they've had these little bitty insurance type deals. First, you all know about gap insurance. If you drive it off the lot, you have the gap insurance. It'll pay for the car, because when you drive off the lot, the car depreciates in value. It can lose like $5,000 to $10,000 depending on what type of vehicle you buy. So you've heard of gap insurance before. Gap insurance did not exist at one time. It was like, bad luck. Your car, you got into a wreck and you got to pay that difference. So they came up with gap insurance. And you're like, well, how can these insurance companies afford to do that? Why would they do that? If somebody drove off the lot, and the gap insurance is probably like $50, or maybe it's $1,000 over the term of the loan, because the insurance companies play that balancing game. We want to have more payments coming in than what we pay out. That's just their game. And so there are products that are out there where they went to dealers who deal with a lot of these subprime. They're like, hey, we'll underwrite a policy that will either pay a portion of the vehicle or pay the vehicle off. And they're balancing. They're like, hey, if we got 1 million contracts and we make we get through this month and we only have like, say they got 1 million deals. That might be too high. Say they got 100,000 deals, and 10 of them go bad, and they're like, we're way ahead of the game because we're making this money every month. We're only paying out on a certain amount of vehicles per month. So that's their whole game. That's how they play that game. So you got to watch out for any type of insurance. It could be named anything. Just look on the line. You don't remember it because when you were in there in that room, your mind was focused on how you were going to be looking driving that car. So your mind is not focused at all on that. You're just like, hey, that sounds like a good idea. That sounds like a good idea. Go ahead and throw that in there for me. So you check for any insurances on there, and you want to, so you can see if the car was potentially paid, and then you want to make sure what it was sold for at auction. You have a right to get the auction statement. A lot of people don't know that. You have a right to get it, see it, so you can evaluate the situation. And then once you have all of that information, if you're fighting against a third-party debt collector, then you present your side. If you're still with the original creditor, which is rare, but you could potentially be with the original creditor on that debt. I've seen that with some credit unions where they take the vehicle, resell. Sometimes credit union take the vehicle, put it on their lot and resell it. And, you still should get credit for that money. They can't just take the vehicle back and then sell it that way and you don't get credit for it. So, you got to make sure that, that everything was done the right way for you, because you may not even owe the money. So I want to go through that. I got a good video on that too. I always think about that because the older lady, when I had first started the credit repair shop, her husband had passed away, left a new Cadillac. He was dying of cancer. He went out and bought a new Cadillac, and she got left with it with the payments. And she was, in her late 60s, and she was just in a security guard suit. And I was like, I just got to figure out how to help her with this situation. I just it seemed like yesterday, when it's been almost 20 years since I seen her. But it was like, I got to figure out. And when we looked at the contract, and we found several issues, and we ended up being able to resolve that, where she had a good outcome. And I will say that the lender did really work good with us on that. Like, they were like, hey, I mean, you know, maybe they were pretending, but they said, hey, we just didn't know this. We didn't know that she had got that contract, and we didn't know that, you know, that, well, that he had got this contract for paying a portion of the vehicle, payment, insurance, and stuff like that. So a lot of credits have went to her, to the car. She was facing like over 20 grand, and we were able to get that way down to where it was something manageable. She wanted to be responsible and take care of her debts. She just said that there was no way that she was going to be able to take care of that, and she did not want to file bankruptcy. All right, so if you need help with your credit, please visit us at thecreditrepairshop.com. Watch the video, What Makes Us Different, so you can see my 8-point validation process and my 2-phase settlement process. This is just the way that we do it. We're not going to do it any other way. So if you can't work with that process, you know, there's a whole bunch of other people on YouTube that you can go and work with. If you need your credit reports and scores, the link is below. Your order number 3scores.com. Or if you just want to get your FICO scores, the score that mortgage companies, credit card companies, and car companies, auto loan companies will see when they run your credit, I have a special link below this video so you can see your full FICO score, so you can know where you rank with all of the different bureaus. I mean, not the bureaus, but where you rank with your FICO scores. So if you were to go and try to get an auto loan or a mortgage or a credit card, you're going to see if you're in that approval range. It's going to let you know right away on that. And then, but again, companies make their own decisions, but you will see what they're going to see. And then if you have debt collectors coming after you, you can grab my 3-pack of letters, statute of limitations, debt validation, cease and desist collection activities letter. Those letters will help you get out of trouble. If you have debt collectors sending you letters, it's best to get on it early, because it won't get to the situations that I just explained earlier in this video. Statute of limitations is for debt that is past the legal statute of limitations to collect. Yes, they are still buying debts that are past the legal statute of limitations to collect. So you want to stay up on top of that. Don't let any debt collector send you a 30-day letter and then you don't respond and they put it on your credit. Next, the cease and desist collection activities letter. You want to send that letter if the debt is not past the legal statute of limitations, because that will let them know that you're not going to just stand by and let them run right over you. You're going to make sure that they have everything to prove that you have to pay that debt. And then I have a debt validation letter that you can go back and forth with debt collectors, because they're going to probably sometimes say, hey, here's a last statement or a couple of statements, and you want them to prove everything before you make your next move on dealing with them. Thank you for your time. Please like this video. Please post your questions and comments. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please subscribe to the channel. This is Stephen A. Williams, president and founder of thecreditrepairshop.com.